Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of It's About Time with Jared and Drew. A little bit of a treat for you guys. We're shooting this episode on Saturday, of course. Usually we've been doing our episodes on Tuesdays, but because of overwhelming demand a little bit, we figured we'd do another episode this week. So, today's topic, the 5 of the best category. We already covered the worst for you last week, but we're going to take the opposite viewpoint this time, and we're going into our top, the ones that we like the most. And I promise you, Drew and I are both going to vary very greatly for the most part on this, but I think that our viewpoints, we were actually just comparing our notes a few minutes ago, and our viewpoints are good and different, and we're going to go into all of that in a little bit. So, before we do that, customary, what's on the wrist? Not much of a surprise with me. We're still rocking the Mito Great Wall Automatic Date. It's like 34 and a half seconds off or so after like 34 days. It just speaks for itself. It's too beautiful. I'm going to even have a hard time taking this thing off my wrist when I switch to my next watch. Drew, what are you wearing today?
I can't show you what's on my list, Jared, because it's on my list. So we're just going to save that for a little while down the road because that would kind of ruin the surprise on where it lands on my list. So, and Jared is right. With Valentine's Day coming up, we love you people so much, we're giving you an extra episode this week. So to kick it off, we're going to give honorable mentions on some brands that didn't make our top 5, but we view them as very, very good watches.
They're solid.
Very good brands.
Good buys.
Just missed the top 5. So, Jared, what do you have as your honorable mentions?
All right, so my 5, I have Eterna, fantastic brand out there. Ball watch, originated on the railroad, late 1800s, just great watches. They're really known for their loom, their gas tubes in their watches. Concord, absolutely fantastic. Great courses, fantastic automatics, Mariners, Saratoga, C2s. They're really just great watches. Watch that I personally had also. Another watch that I personally had, Frederic Constant. Recently, in the last few years, come into Tourneau and a few other smaller and medium boutiques and things like that. Family-owned business, proud to say, independent. Who knows if that will change or not. Really just great brand. They have a lot of offerings, which is very cool, and they're very stylish. More of a dress watch, but still very nice. And also, I want to give them an honorable mention more so. They do manufacture their own movements. Pretty rare across any watchmaker. Last one for me, I also personally had and wore, although there's some controversy now with them possibly getting bought out by a bigger company, but Breitling, another solid brand, pilot's watch, very reliable, bang around. Their workhorses, especially with their ETA Valjoux 7750 movements.
On my top 5, I do agree with Jared on 2. Breitling and Concord, for the reasons all that he mentioned. Breitling is a great aviator's watch. They perfected this throughout the decades, and you'll see them in any high-end place you go, and they do hold nice retail value. That's the one thing people forget to mention when they think of Breitling. They do hold a nice retail value if you go to resell them.
They will hold value at
Yes,
least.
they're very
really
popular. Everybody loves them.
But don't pay retail necessarily.
No.
Go on the secondary market.
Go on eBay.
We're gonna get back. We're gonna get into that.
We'll get around to that
episodes.
later. Concord, same thing. Just as Jared was saying, I showed you a couple of mine throughout the other episodes so far. I do have a couple more to show you in future episodes. Concords make great Mariner watches, great C2s, and they are just Saratogas. Oh, they're just fantastic. And Movado, the Movado company actually bought them out, but left them alone. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the cruise ship line. What people did with Princess when Carnival bought out Princess and then left them alone, because everybody knows in the retail shipping line industry, if you go on a cruise, you never want to cruise Carnival, but you always want to cruise Princess. The same thing with Concord and Movado. You really don't want to have Movado, but Concord is a high-end brand that they left alone. They just own them and collect the profits. So those two I do agree on. My little nobody knows about kind of watch, like Jared fell into with Frederic Constant, is Epos, another little Swiss brand. Go take a look at them. Very, very interesting movements. I have the Night Sky, which I will show you in a future episode, but it is a very, very nice watch, and they do use the ETA movements, and they're pretty accurate. Usually they're within 3 to 4 seconds when you buy them new a day. So I have no problems with Epos as well, but they just missed the list. And my last two, Bulgari and Cartier, both fall in that same category, just missing the top 5, and only because they're both not strictly watch brands. They are a fashion brand, but they make damn good watches.
Well, I'll tell you, because I know we discussed this in earlier episodes, what bugs me the most, I'm not as familiar with Bulgari as Drew is, but with Cartier, we went into a Tourneau. This was in Long Island City Mall not too long ago. Cartier, please build your water resistance.
Uh-huh.
If you did that, you are going to sell, way more. Every watch is 3 ATM. I get that's the standard. 5 ATM. Just go there one time.
Yes.
Go there one time. You don't even have to do 10. Just do 5.
I'm fortunate to have a Cartier that's 10 ATM, but he's right. That is not the standard.
They don't do 10.
No,
Five,
they really
barely
don't.
even 5. Barely.
Yeah.
But they're dress watch, really. They're not.
Great watches, great movements, great history, but they just fall out of our top 5. That being said,
It's about time to do our
top 5
Top 5.
best brands. So Jared's going to lead this sucker off.
All right. So my take from my side, the brands I'm going to present to you today, my theme is affordable, still Swiss made, fairly luxurious, with still a lot of features packed into the watches. They're still watches that'll last you a lifetime. They're just not in that very high price point upper echelon. It's very hard. Listen, if you can raise your hand right now and go ahead and do it, can you afford that $2,000 or $3,000 luxury watch? If you can, I'm going to say swing Drew's way a little bit. If you can't, if your hand's down, you're maybe 5 to about 1,000 or so, give or take a little bit, 1,500 stretching it, you're going to want to lean toward my side a little bit. So that's just a little, preference, really, before we go into the list. I think both of our lists are fantastic, though. I'm not going to discount any of the watches on it. So the first one for me is Hamilton. I was just talking to a very good friend about Hamilton today, really comparing Hamilton and then my next one that I'm going to tell you guys about in a minute. But what a great, they've been around for so many years. Their history, they started off on the railroad. They were official railroad timekeepers. Some of the most accurate watches out there. They're still very accurate nowadays. You can also regulate it. We're going to get into that in future episodes. But for the price, they're amazing. They have such great features. They feature all different sorts of watches. They're always coming out with new lines. Some novelty watches, some big, thin, small, whatever it is. They have ladies' lines. Great gifts for the holiday season. If you want to go for Valentine's Day especially, go take a look at Hamilton. They have chronographs, they have day dates, they have dates, they have watches even without the date. They have a little bit of everything for everybody. I've personally owned them. Don't anymore. Just decided to go with other brands, but I would absolutely own them again in 2 seconds. They even have open heart watches. You can see the heartbeat in them. They're just such a versatile brand for the price and their features. Great. I love them.
And at number 5 for me is Rado. Unlike Movado, Rado is actually sleek, that actually works. They were the pioneers of the ceramic revolution. Back in the 1980s, they were the first ones to experiment with ceramic. And since then, they have mastered it. There really isn't. There's a lot of copiers. You have Akribos. There's a couple other ones. Bearing.
I don't even think Akribos
that do now. But they do make ceramic watch. And now you see the higher end brand. Rolex is now starting to come out with some ceramic watches.
And you know what? Actually, even a little update. I was reading the article today. Thank you to Apple for scrapping your 18-karat gold watch and going now with ceramic. I wonder where you got it from.
Gee, and Rado was the true founder of that. The other thing they're also known for is their tank watches. Okay, what Rado does very well, if you go on any of the places to go take a look at many of the websites, their tank watches, it looks like a bracelet. Okay, so as you have the bracelet size, the watch is the same size, so there's no protruding factor out. With most watches, a lot of people don't like the fact that they protrude out and they're too big. Rado takes care of that problem with their tank watches. And they have curved crystals. Okay, so the sapphire crystal is curved around the whole side of it, which really is unique. The bad part about it is if you shatter the crystal, it's going to be pretty expensive to fix, but they're pretty durable. Their accuracy is pretty good when you buy them brand new, usually within that 4 or 5 second range. Their higher end ones can go 2 to 3 seconds. I've had them even as close as a second a day. So they are reasonably priced, especially if you get them on eBay. Okay, this is typically a watch you'd want to go to eBay for because there's a lot of sellers for them, and you could really get them in either used or new. They're even better if they're used sometimes because ceramic doesn't scratch. And if you have a watch that doesn't scratch, then you can't tell if it's used or new to begin with. So as long as there's nothing wrong with the crystal or the face, you're golden. So Rado really does get that one-of-a-kind sleek look out that really nobody else does. If you're looking for that more simple look, they're not going to give you a ton of features. They do have open hearts as well. The skeleton watch, which I showed you, and they do have some features, day, date, stuff like that, but they're not really big into features. They're more big on looks. So with that, we'll go to Jared at number 4.
Yeah, the only thing I will say with Rado, if you do get a Rado ceramic or any other ceramic watch for that matter, chances are you're not going to be able to size it down yourself. You're going to have to take it to somebody because it's very, very difficult to do. So the next one on my list, to be, in all honesty, this is really my favorite of favorite brands. I love it. It's one on my wrist, Mito. They come out with such great lines. The only problem is that sometimes they are a little harder to get. Not many places sell them. Between eBay, they go very quickly. There's usually not a huge selection. But the other place to go is jomashop.com. Really great place to get them. They are even a little bit cheaper than Hamilton. They offer some fantastic limited editions that are really great. In terms of value, they hold pretty decently. They have so many day dates. The other thing that I love about Mito, and this is probably one of my favorite parts, they're one of the top producers of chronometer timepieces, besides like Rolex and Breitling. It's really quite impressive. If you take a look at some magazines like each year and you look at the year in review and all the COSC certified chronometers, they're right up there. I think they're in the top 10, maybe in the top 7 or something. Mito has been one of my favorite watches for a long time. I used to have a limited edition all dial, sold it. That was one of the ones I really regret selling, to be quite honest with you. But they're such a great watch. You could wear them on almost any occasion. Their water resistance is fantastic. They have great features. Their Commander, their Great Wall, their Belluna, even some of their other novelty watches, like I was saying, like the Great Wall, the All Dials especially. They are some of the coolest watches. They're inspired by architecture. I would please go check them out on their website. They're going to be coming out with brand new watches this year. It's very hard to beat that brand for what you get and the price you get them for.
Number 4 for me is Oris. Okay, here's a brand you don't really hear much about. They really don't get enough recognition. They're a standalone brand. They're really not owned by anybody. They've been by themselves for quite a while. And they do make a solid timepiece. What they're known for is basically twofold. Number 1, the throwback look. You want to forget Panerai up at $6,000-$7,000. Go get an Oris for $1,500 to $2,000. You can go get that 1930s look, no problem. Okay, they really mimic that old retro deco 1930s look, and they have a lot of different watches that look like Oh God, it looks like the old stopwatches that you used to have, the old pocket watches, and they just put a bracelet around it, and they have a lot of different looks to them. So Oris does come back with a lot of different designs. If you go to Joner's shop, go to any of these sites, you'll see all the different designs that Oris does make. It's really remarkable. They only make a limited amount of them, so which is pretty cool, which keeps their value where they should be. Not terrible with their resale value. They are reasonably priced for what you get. Most of their water resistances are kind of low. You got a handful at 3 ATM, but they are getting
usually 5.
the newer ones are now at 5. Their older ones were at 3, so their newer ones are particularly better. So they are even improving on that. Their accuracy right off the bat, 3 seconds if it's brand new, it's fantastic. Because they do use nice regulated movements, really nice piece, and they're known for their divers watches. Okay, this is some of the best luminescence you're going to find out in the market. Rado is really good for that. They rival. What? Sorry,
You mean ours?
Oris. Oris is known for that. They do rival Rolex in that type of area as well, and some of the other great divers watches out there. So Oris does make a fantastic piece for the money that you get, and they do have different designs as well. I have a couple of watches that you'll see in later episodes. The Jump Hour, which is really cool. Instead of the date, there's a big window up on top. It represents the hour. So the hour is digital and the minutes are analog, and it's really cool. I get a lot of compliments on that. And the regulator. They actually broke down the watch into different wheels. How it used to be. When watches were first invented, even when clocks were first invented, they used to be on 3 wheels. One for the hours, one for the minutes, and one for the seconds. That's what Oris does. They'll actually break it down to the regulator and put it in a watch. So you can actually see, instead of a chronograph, you're actually looking at the hours, minutes, and seconds. So it's really cool. They get back to the basics of how watches were invented. You can be like, wow, this is how it all started before they got the idea to put it all on one wheel, which is what you see now, as all the hands are on one dial and on the one wheel instead of the 3. So Oris really does give a different look, and that's why I have them at number 4. Over to you at number 3.
So the next one for me, this is one that I just picked up recently, and again, you're going to see pretty much my whole collection in upcoming episodes. Toward the end of the month, I'm planning on switching this watch out. But for me, the next one is Orient. I'm sure a few of you have heard of them. If not, definitely go check them out. Just purchased a Orient Power Reserve manual wind. It's on a leather strap. But I'm planning on using that for mainly golf and for the beach and things like that. I'm not the biggest fan of taking my watches out in like extreme temperatures like heat and things like that, and especially I'm not going to be taking my automatics out to go play golf or anything like that because they're not going to be able to take the 100-mile-an-hour swing speed of the club head. But Orient is a great brand, extremely affordable. They have watches that literally go from like about $100, and then some of their other lines, you could be surprised, but they go up to like $1,000, $1,500. It's really crazy. They offer great automatics. They offer great quarters. Their water resistance, very solid. At least 50 meters on a lot of them. I don't remember seeing too many 100 meters. But still, I had a Orient, it was a quartz day date. It was just a really cool looking watch. But again, I gravitated toward automatics, and the one that I have now actually, and you guys will see in future episodes, it's really cool. Very rarely, I think Orient has made like ever a handful of watches that hack, which means that when you take the crown out from the watch, the second hand will stop. And mine was one of them. Currently completely sold out online. You cannot find them anywhere. It's kind of like Oris. Once they sell out, that's it. They're not going to be making anymore. But they're really, now, obviously they're not really a Swiss-made brand. They're more of a Japanese brand. But they're, mine, and this doesn't bother me, runs like 12 seconds a day. For Japanese, like, manual wind automatic, that's still pretty tolerable. That's fantastic. I mean, even within 5 days, you're still talking about being a minute off. That's still technically about a week if you want to talk about the work week, which is just great. So Orient, some great dials, beautiful Breguet style hands on some of them, especially mine. Good water resistance. They come with the automatics and the manual winds. Not all companies make manual winds nowadays. That's why I gravitated toward them.
Number 3 for me was the first watch that was in outer space. It is the representative of the Olympics. And we all know James Bond, that's his favorite these days. It wasn't his older episodes in the 70s did have a different brand, but this has been in recent decades his favorite brand, which is Omega. Omega, as everybody knows, they rival Cartier as the second most popular brand out there in the market. What can you say? What can't you say about them? They hold pretty good resale value. They're excellent timepieces. Their lines are timeless, okay? Their Constellation, probably one of their most famous lines. You know, their racing model as well for those designs. They're known for divers' watches. They're known for a lot of different things. The best parts about Omega is there's always a market for it. Okay, if you ever want to resell it, you're probably going to get your money back. That's depending on the design you pick and how well priced you get it at. They use real gold in some of their pieces, and you know all the materials that they use. They have good water resistance. So it's a brand that never really goes out of style. I mean, how long have we been talking about Omega in terms of how many decades have people been talking about Omega?
I know me and you have owned our fair share.
Oh, God. And my favorite watch that I own, and I have about 30 watches in my collection, is my Omega Constellation, my diamond watch. And
you guys will see that one eventually.
Out of all the watches I own, and I own a lot of...
Tell them why it's your favorite.
For all the reasons I mentioned, I just love the look of it. What they did back in the 90s and the early 2000s with the Constellation was just amazing. And when I actually have it on my wrist, you'll get a chance to see what I'm talking about. But it's always been my most accurate watch that I've had, and I've never ever had to open it since I've gotten it. And I used to wear it as an everyday piece. I used to take it in hot tubs, in the shower.
Don't do that, by the way.
We do not recommend that.
Disclaimer,
however,
no hot tub.
When I first was into watches, and this was one of the first ones I had, I didn't know better, but still it didn't affect the watch, and I was amazed, but I still wouldn't do it today. My life depended on it. So, but that watch, along with all their other brands, Omega, you can't go wrong. You never can. There's a reason that they're top 3 in the market, and they land on number 3 on my list.
Well, let's jump now to another brand with a fairly rich history, Bulova. I can't say enough good things about this brand. Established in 1875 in New York City by Joseph Bulova, headquartered now back in New York City in the good old Empire State Building, sponsoring the Empire State Run up and down the building, which is fantastic. Bulova is just pioneer in so many different levels. Really known for their precisionist movement. A lot of people don't know this, but they do still have a very active Accu Swiss line. If you go onto eBay and search like Bulova Gemini, Bulova Kirkwood, again, they remind me a little bit of like the Hamilton a little bit. They have the open heart. They have, the quartzes. They have the automatics. They have the chronographs too. They're just beautiful watches. A little bit of everything for everybody. They have the simple to the more complex, and they even have some collectible ones out there. Again, we talked about the tuning fork with the movement a few episodes ago. They were the pioneers of that. They've been around a long time. They're very affordable. I know a lot of people that have them. Obviously, favor them hugely, tremendously over a Fossil any day of the week. Their watches tend to run a little larger, I will say, but they're still really great watches. The water resistance on some of them, they could go up to 300 meters, 100 meters is pretty standard. They make some 3 ATMs, but really at least 5, 10, or even more. So you're really not going to have a problem with that. And they're just great designs. They come out with some limited editions also. That's another one of my themes. Very affordable as well, and you could literally take your pick and you could find any style you want in that brand.
Number 2 for me is really a brand that revolutionized watches in general. They have such a rich history in making watches, their achievements, their patents, everything. You really owe the modern day watch to this company, and you really can't find it as frequently as you think you can. And I'm talking about La Culture. Jaeger LaCulture is a brand that, if you can find it, I highly recommend you invest in getting one. And these are not cheap watches. You can get some of the older brands, some of their older models on eBay for a relatively decent price. They do specialize both in quartz and automatic, but they do use the finest materials. Today they specialize in platinum, but they do use gold very, very frequently in a lot of their watches. Their Albatross collection was a very, very famous line that ran for, I can say, a good 10, 15 years. I do have one which I will bring out probably next episode. And they have all the features you can imagine: tourbillons, moon phase, day, date, month. They have ones that showcase the year. They have skeletons. They have everything. This is an all-out, handmade, high-end Swiss company that really, you owe it to them and Vacheron Constantin. Basically,
I'd say Breguet a little bit too.
Breguet a little bit. Those three, without them, you don't have any of these other watch companies. It just doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, I would say their movements are sourced to just about any watch company you can ever think of, and if not, they use their movements as models for their movements. It's just absolutely crazy.
It's like a collector's wet dream. I mean, all the factors come together where you just want to blow a load every time you see one. I'm just saying, they last for decades. They're just fantastic. But the only downside to the cultures is you can't really find them. If you wanted to go see them, you're not even going to find them in Tourneau. I'll be dead honest with you. They're too high end for Tourneau. Don't say that about many brands.
I really don't know any boutique that they're really in.
No, they're really not. The only time I ever saw a La Culture store is when I went down this past year with my wife to St. Martin. I stopped in the La Culture store, and they had about 6 watches in the entire store. It was really weird. They had like 3 floors for 6 watches. I'll never really forget it. The Reverso is another one.
It's actually their most iconic watch.
Oh, it's absolutely unbelievable. And I don't even have one. But take a look. Go look up the Reverso if you have a minute.
Definitely.
I mean, the fascinating part of this watch is you can take the watch, out of the actual case, flip it around, and then all of a sudden...
It was originally designed for polo.
Yes.
Polo players.
Okay, and, because they needed a durable, so they didn't want to ruin the actual face of the watch, so they just turned around, but the movement is so small. They have such micro movements in their watches. It's unbelievable. Are they expensive to fix? Yes. But they are watches that do last for decades, and it's one of the many reasons why it lands on number 2 on my list.
So number 1 is where Drew and I are going to come together, and I'm going to tell you guys an interesting story. I don't think that I told you guys this, but before we do that, we're going to get to Drew's What's on the Wrist today.
What's on the Wrist is the number 1 brand of the day for both of us, and it is Rolex. Okay, guys, there's a reason why the king has his crown, okay? Where do we begin, okay? Let's begin with investment.
Well, let's start off with my story, just so I can let everybody know
story.
Like how special this watch, how special this brand really is. Going back a while ago, I had something like 42 watches, case, and everything else like that. It was right after I bought an ESQ Movado that Drew goes to me and is like, instead of having all those watches, why don't you get like one like beautiful big piece that'll like go up in value, a big brand, like something that like means something, whatever it is, instead of having all that stuff that's worth like pretty much garbage, which, you sell them all collectively, they're worth a lot, but individually they're worth nothing. So he threw out the brand name of like Rolex to me, and at first I'm like, oh, I'm never going to own a Rolex, no way, I can't do whatever. Try selling 42 watches, literally on your own or whatever it is, going around to boutiques and other places and Tourneau and whatever it is, and other private jewelry sellers, and trying to get other buyers to buy a whole collection. It's not easy. Took me about a summer or so, let's say like a few months to really sell off my collection. Got extremely lucky one day to find a beautiful Rolex. Not breaking it out right now. You guys will definitely see it towards the end of, actually, maybe towards the end of this month, a little bit. But I got a beautiful two-tone Rolex from 2002. Not easy to get. It's like the brand of brands. I mean, literally, if you even get a stainless steel Rolex, let's just say, you're really not going to lose any sort of value unless you buy brand new or like overpaid on the pre-owned market. You will not lose value on it whatsoever, especially a two-tone. We were just in a store today, and they were ready to take his watch, and they were saying they would sell it every day for $5,500. Drew, how much did you get it for?
$1,600, and that was about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
So, in terms of investment and resale, nobody even comes close.
It's the most popular brand in the world. Ask anybody about any watch out there, and the one watch they will know, besides an Apple Watch or whatever it is, Rolex.
Rolex is the first thing always on everybody's mind because they're
Number
the
one.
king of marketing. They do such a great job with all the sports that they carefully pick. You know, the tennis championships, golf.
By the way, I wear my
archery.
two-tone to even do yard work. That's how durable these
They're
watches are.
durable.
It's ridiculous.
And they keep rising in value. I don't know how this happens because they sell so many.
And their models, they keep improving. This year for Baselworld,
They're
planning on
iconic. I mean, you're looking at the Seamaster, you're looking at the Datejust, you're looking at
Submariner.
the Submariner. All these wonderful iconic lines that they've had through the years don't go out of style. The Datejust has been around for 60 years.
Datejust 2.
It's unbelievable, and they get a little bigger these days. The newer ones are bigger than the older
Rolex
ones.
Presidential Day. I mean, listen, now given these watches brand new, they're not affordable. I'm gonna say that flat out.
They're really not. You have to go on
Secondary
eBay to get
market.
them. Go on
Secondary
eBay, and you're going to go into a bidding war. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be some of the most fascinating
I got
experience
into
you're
2
ever
or
going
3
to have.
bidding wars myself.
And
I got
you
into 2 or
feel
3.
like total shit when you lose. Because you get so invested. Now I can get another 100. I can go another 200, and then you still lose because the market is so.
You need to go like
on-demand.
500 to 1,000.
I recommend going on eBay and looking at the ones that buy it now very carefully.
That's how I got mine.
You want to avoid bidding wars because they tend to go up even higher than what their value should be.
Literally within like a few hours of putting a Rolex on eBay, it'll reach at least half of its value within just a few hours.
Oh yeah. And you're
Never
gonna
seen anything like it
I've
before
never
in my
seen
life.
anything like it.
No other watch brand in the world.
No, I mean we both had things. I've had Rolexes on the market. I've never lost money with Rolex, and that's the only brand I could ever tell you with. Everybody else, I'm lucky to say, okay, you'll make your money back in terms of the culture. Or you're lucky if
Honestly,
or Breitling.
you'll get buried in this watch, and this is a watch that you'll get dug up in 200 years from when you die, and it'll still be ticking when you're a dead skeleton corpse. I know it sounds crazy. It's a bad image to put in your head.
People still want it,
But it's true.
I've never seen anything quite like it. It never goes out of style.
Like Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin, and Gray, whatever it is. But Rolex is just that. It's the brand of the world.
And they weren't always this way. We were talking earlier in the car, when they first came out around 1918, up for those first couple decades.
Yeah, actually, it was, speaking of 1918, that's the year it was the first chronometer certified wristwatch, meaning very accurate. Nowadays, they run to within, I think, 2 seconds a day, which is just gross. I mean, hello, Mito, but,
They basically they were just another watch brand up until that late 1940s, early 1950s, when they remarketed themselves, put the crown above their name, and all of a sudden it became a ridiculous fashion trend, and then they just really marketed better than anybody else.
They make men's watches, they make women's watches, they make 36, I think even maybe 38. They go up to 41 now.
Guys, you could actually
Unreal.
go after a Rolex clock and lose a bidding war on eBay. It's unbelievable. The clocks go for $1,000. I've seen some clocks. Clocks.
I didn't even know if they made clocks till just now.
For a short period of time, they actually made quartz. They tried dabbling
Reminds me
quartz.
of the culture.
Yes, and they
Atmos.
yes. They basically tried quartz for a short period of time, and even those watches are worth thousands of dollars because they only get it for a short period of time because they're rare. But basically, guys, you can't go wrong with the best brand in terms of overall factors.
Really, the cool news is I have to really tell you, with pretty much every single watch that we have mentioned here today, please go look them up. Rewind back a little bit. Remember, we talked about Rado, R-A-D-O, Hamilton, Hamilton, Oris, O-R-I-S, Mido, M-I-D-O, Omega, O-M-E-G-A, Orient, O-R-I-E-N-T, Jijilekoter, that's really the pronunciation, Jaegerlecoultre, Bulova, B-U-L-O-V-A, and of course Rolex, R-O-L-E-X. And the only reason why I spelled those out for you, again, this is our top 5 favorite. We want you to go out, research these brands, check them out, ask us questions about them. We've owned every single one of these and still own every single one of these that's on, regardless of price or whatever it is. And we encourage you guys, listen, every single one of these watches that we mentioned tonight, and I think Drew will without a doubt agree with me, and I was talking to one of our friends earlier, they will last you a lifetime, and then another lifetime, and then probably another lifetime on top of that. You can be buried with them. It doesn't matter. They're going to last you forever. You'll never need another watch the rest of your life.
1/3 of a cat's life. 3 lifetimes.
Yeah,
9. So, but basically, guys, we thank you for joining us tonight on going over our top 5 brands and our honorable mentions as well.
And listen, don't forget, please like our videos, subscribe to our videos, send us an email. We're going to put that in the description below. Drew, tell them what's our next topic.
Well, we have a lot of different options, but we will probably discuss the Swiss versus Asian movements.
That's a good one.
Okay, because we just started dabbling in this tonight, okay, because we brought up some Asian and we brought up a lot of Swiss brands, so we're going to actually...
And there's a lot of big debates going on online right now, especially in the watch industry.
Yeah, so we're going to go
It may
into that
surprise you
further.
to know what we say next time.
It's a more interesting topic than you may think it is, especially in today's day and age.
And you could debate it for like a day.
That's right.
Easily.
So without further ado, thank you for joining us tonight, and happy birthday, Monet.
See you guys next week.